If you remember these iconic snack cakes that you find at the store, today we are recreating that same decadent chocolate cake with a cream center, and don't forget that chocolatey icing with the squiggle on top. I think you will like this homemade version even more, so be sure to keep on watching! Once you guys try these chocolate cupcakes, you will want to make them all the time. First, we're going to start by making a buttermilk with a 1/4 cup of milk. Just heat that up in the microwave for 15 seconds or until warm but not too hot, and stir in 1 teaspoon of white vinegar. This achieves an extra moist cupcake and is so convenient if you don't have buttermilk on hand. I'm setting that aside for a moment and mixing some hot water with 1 tablespoon of instant coffee and adding a 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder in there. The coffee really brings out that rich chocolatey flavor and helps to bloom the cocoa powder. It will be a smooth, creamy consistency when it's done, but don't be tempted to taste it yet. Unsweetened cocoa powder is quite bitter. And now for our dry ingredients, I have a 1/4 cup of flour, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Feel free to use less salt if you prefer. And guys, welcome! If it's your first time watching, you don't want to miss out on my new recipes every week, so make sure you join the party and click subscribe. Here, I'm measuring the wet ingredients in a separate bowl, which is 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 1 whole egg with 1 yolk, and 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. Notice I'm whisking this by hand, so you won't be needing a hand mixer. I find that works best with this recipe. Next, for our second chocolatey mixture, I'm melting a 1/3 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips with 2 tablespoons of butter in the microwave for 30-second intervals until completely melted. 2 rounds usually does the trick. And pour that into the wet ingredients with 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil and whisk together just until combined to not overmix. To bring the batter together, I'm alternating between the dry and remaining ingredients by sifting in 1/2 of the dry ingredients first and gently folding, then switching off to the buttermilk, a 1/3 cup of sour cream, and the coffee mixture, also all a 1/2 at a time, and complete incorporating everything by repeating those same steps with the last addition of each one. Sifting is definitely key to eliminating any lumps from forming in this beautiful batter, so you definitely don't want to skip on that. To resemble the Hostess cakes as much as possible, I'm not using cupcake liners. Instead, I'm spraying a 12-cup muffin pan with non-stick and filling each cup halfway. Keep in mind they tend to peak in the oven like a volcano, and we want to prevent that, so a trick is to bake them low and slow for 20 to 23 minutes at 300 degrees or until a toothpick comes out clean. Just allow them to cool off a bit before popping the cupcakes right out of the pan. This is where non-stick is so important, and place them on a sheet of parchment paper. We don't want the bottoms sticking to the plate. They look so delicious on their own, but it's not a Hostess cupcake without the cream filling, and this recipe is super simple. All we need to do is add 3/4 of a cup of milk and a 1/4 of a cup of sifted flour to a small saucepan and whisk away. After the flour has dissolved, put your saucepan over medium heat and whisk continuously until it forms into a paste. Keep an eye on this and lower the heat if needed so it doesn't burn. The paste will look like mashed potatoes when it's finished. Go ahead and remove that from the heat. In the meantime, grab a mixing bowl and throw in 1/2 cup of softened butter and a 1/3 cup of vegetable shortening, creaming those together until light and fluffy. Room temperature butter helps with this process. Next, you are going to whip in that paste we just made to thicken it up. It will be good to go after it's thoroughly beaten in. You want to have your sieve handy to sift in 1 cup of powdered sugar, along with 1 tablespoon of clear vanilla extract, clear so we don't discolor that cream. And that's it, there's no more ingredients. Just give this a good workout until it is formed into a thick and delicious cream that's all ready for the cupcakes. Some recipes use marshmallow fluff, but come on guys, this is better than marshmallow fluff. I like to take a cupcake core for this, which I will link down below, and center it on the bottom of the cupcake, gently sawing through by twisting. You can slowly remove the corer after you reach the bottom and press the spring to release the cake. This gadget is really awesome. And fill the middle with some cream using a pastry bag. Slice the cord piece of cake to fit it over the opening. I recommend to flip your cupcakes over on the bottom for this part so you can't see any of those circle marks on the top surface when we frost them with this chocolatey glaze. There's no need to sift this, just dump in half of a cup of powdered sugar with 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, a tiny dash of salt, 1/8 of a teaspoon, a half a tablespoon of corn syrup for a hint of gooiness, and half a tablespoon of vanilla extract. To thin it out, add about 4 tablespoons of hot water and mix, mix, mix. It's perfectly normal to have some air bubbles, but you have a chocolatey glaze to dip your cupcakes right into. It will set and dry a lot faster than a chocolate ganache, so you can eat them right away. Last but not least, for that signature look a Hostess cupcake has, use any pre-made icing and pipe that squiggle design right on top. For reference, I used the tip number 3. I hope you enjoyed this video and it made you revisit your childhood. If you did, check out my Cosmic Brownies recipe. It's very similar and you'll love it. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.